Hey guys, it is TexAgs Rewind. David Nuno here in studio. Recently, we've kind of gotten empty. People are overworked and not hanging out with me, but that's all right. The Aggies are hanging out with me. They're 3-0, and there's some people that are not happy, whatever. They're 3-0. They've won 11 straight. Now they got Arkansas coming up, and on the go hour, we kind of gave our thoughts to try to put New Mexico to bed. We also had Billy in here. He gave us his thoughts on the way the New Mexico game went, and obviously the future here with Arkansas coming up. We had Tom Hart of the SEC Network breaking it all down, and Peter Burns here as well. Always got a hot take. That on TexAgs Rewind. It's funny, and it's around college football. This is not isolated for Texas A&M. But there's a lot of doom is gloom, and just the Aggies aren't as good as we thought, feel, and we don't know. There's still a lot to see out there. But I saw every week there has been a moment where you're like, yeah, that question's been answered. Yeah, that question's been answered. Yep, that question's been answered. Last week to me was, can Zach Calzada seem calm and patient in the pocket and deliver some strikes? I think he did that. He held on the ball too long a couple times, for sure. But I'm still waiting for that offensive line to gel. But each week, there is something new that is answered, and maybe we'll have some more questions answered after Arkansas.
Well, there's going to be some questions answered Arkansas either way, either positively or negatively.
Yeah.
We were talking last week, when do you know who you are? And next week may give us that answer. You'll be a third of the way through the season. How much better can you get a third of the way through the season? And now you're playing against a team that may or may not deserve that number 16 ranking.
As people say, maybe we don't deserve our number 7 ranking.
It's true. So and maybe if you go out and beat a team that's ranked 16th, and, maybe then there's fewer questions about your rank. So I think we learn so much about this Texas A&M football team this week.
Yeah. So I forget what the score was, but Arkansas had no problems with Georgia Southern. Maybe it was 45-10, something like that.
Something like that.
Yep. But I watched part of that game. Not a lot, but a part of it. I wasn't very impressed with what I saw from Arkansas at times. And again, you can look at scoreboards and decide, A&M, they win, whatever it was. 34-0. They barely beat New Mexico. They could have just smashed them, have 60 points at the half. The first 2 drives, they came out and they played great football. The game was over at that point. After the second drive, there was no chance New Mexico was going to be able to do anything.
You mean after the 4th play?
Thank you. Yes, after the 4th play. So that happens. And then they had a little lull like we've seen in a couple of the games, where all 3 games, really. They didn't move the ball very much. What was it, the second quarter against Kent State? Mm-hmm. Obviously struggles for a big portion of the Colorado game, 3 quarters to be exact. And but this game was never in doubt. They are a superior team to who they played. And I do think, I mentioned this to you a little bit at right before we started, I don't think we've seen everything from A&M yet. They've held back some stuff. They've been experimenting a little bit. I believe that is part of the reason you've seen more throwing than running. I think, and they put certain people out there on the line. Blake Traynor, for instance, who had to come in for the injury out there. That I believe we're going to see much more this week, and obviously even more escalated when they take on Alabama in a couple weeks after that.
Well, I don't doubt that that they've got a few things in their back pocket that they haven't shown. I think they've thrown more than run because the defenses that teams are playing are asking you to throw, and because they haven't blocked consistently in the run game. So that's why I think they've done that. But I have no doubt that there are certain things that we haven't seen yet, or that we've only seen glimpses of, that will probably be used more, double tight end formations and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see more. We've seen a little bit of A-Chain and Spiller in the backfield together. Mm-hmm. I think maybe they were in the backfield together 1 or 2 plays. I think, there's a very good possibility to see more of that. Do whatever you can to get your best guys on the field at the same time and panic the defense and things like that. But it really doesn't matter what kind of bells and whistles you put out there, if you're not going to be better up front blocking.
Sure.
What I don't get is that, like, that's understandable. But now we're all, I think, as fans, and I think in that building, now the sense of urgency is really heightened. So I think everyone would have loved to have seen 4 quarters of just dominance Saturday against a really bad football team. 34-0 is dominant, and it could have been worse. You know, they came out in the second half and said, we're going to run the ball, you know, after about one drive in, and they were like, now we need to establish the run, and they did that. But it's still, to me, David, what would it have really mattered? You know, yes, you if you have your preference, it's one thing, but if they beat New Mexico 52-0 versus 34, and they extend, and instead of the first 2 drives, they scored on the first 4, and it was 24-0. I don't think that changes how you really would feel going into this Arkansas game. It's a dangerous game. They're a really good opponent. I don't think they're great. They're really good. And A&M's going to have to play a hell of a lot better than they have. And I think they're going to have to shore up some of these areas in a hurry. And we know that it has to happen now in a matter of 7 days from when they took the field against New Mexico. And if it doesn't, there's a good chance they'll lose a football game for the first time in damn near a year. But remember, a year ago at this time, they stunk against Vandy. They got blown out against Bama, but they saw Jimbo and the players, when you talk to them after the season, they saw real signs that day that, hey, this thing's about to come together. And they knew they'd have a real shot against Florida. I don't know if they've seen those signs yet outside of what they've seen on defense. Like, maybe on defense they're going, okay, we're more prepared to shut down the run than our stats say. Maybe they're watching tape and doing that. Offensively, I don't see how they can necessarily see it yet, other than to say maybe like, okay, Zach took a big step from last week to this. That would be significant. Outside of that, I don't know where they would see that yet. It's going to happen. It's just a question of when. And to expect that they wouldn't struggle some on offense, especially if I'd have told you that Haynes King was going to get hurt, I don't understand how anyone could think otherwise. Now, you say, well, I thought the O-line would be a little better. Yeah, so did I through 3 games. That would be my one thing. Outside of that, look, Caleb Chapman didn't play one of the 3 games. Hez Jones been out all 3. You started a first-time starter at quarterback.
Right.
He got hurt in game 2. Your O-line, you lost a starter during game 2. He was hurt throughout game 2. So in game 3, you shuffled everything up. You played another guy that's never played.
Tom, it gets real for Texas A&M this weekend. Your thoughts as the Aggies, they've won 11 in a row, but some people are not happy the way they've looked this first part of the season as they head into this Arkansas game.
That's fine. I mean, it's fine not to be happy, right? I mean, I don't think Jimbo's happy. I mean, he seems to have numerous areas where A&M needs to improve, and that's a good place to be when you've won 11 in a row. The problem, just kind of going big picture for a second, a lot of issues that elite teams are running into, especially this year. I don't know why this year is different than others, but it's this complacency with, hey, we're good. We had a great year last year. We know how to win. No man ever steps into the same river twice, right? Every season is different. Every roster is different. Every year is different. So just because you did something last year doesn't mean everybody's pulling in the same direction. The freshmen know what they're doing. Alabama's run into it already. That was evident after they got out to an early lead. Clemson has obviously run into it. And A&M's far from perfect, right? There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I look at that from a glass half full perspective, and these coaches yearn for teaching points, and they need their team's attention. And sometimes if you're an elite team and you have very few warts, you have to make up ways to get their attention. Jimbo doesn't have to make up ways to get the attention, right? I mean, the O-line is going to get a lot of attention this week. The defense has been better. The wide receivers stepping up, but still room to grow. And the quarterback is going to, Calzada had a great first half throwing the ball, but he needs to continue to make strides and will, as we talked about last week, now that he's the one getting the reps. And this is, David, to answer the first part of your question, this is an Arkansas team that can absolutely beat you. They are for real. A&M's got more talent. It's got better talent, should have more depth. But this Arkansas team just fights and grinds, and they believe in their coaches, and they've had this kind of circle the wagons mentality. Probably comes from Barry Odom on the defensive side. Sam Pittman lives and dies with that entire state. And they do have great players. I love Catalan on the back end. KJ Jefferson's kind of a run-first quarterback, even though he threw for 200-plus in the first half. It's going to be a slobber-knocker. I mean, it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out, old-school football fight. It's going to be a great game.
Tom, when you watch A&M, the formula for a victory Saturday, take me through what a win for A&M looks like in terms of how that game's got to go.
Taking care of the ball and forcing KJ Jefferson into throwing into tight windows, because that's something I don't think that he can do quite yet. I think that, they had some coverage breakdowns for Arkansas this week that allowed them to have some big time plays. And guess what? If KJ Jefferson goes out there and throws 35-yard spirals and all of a sudden, hey, they're just better, then they're just better that day, right? But, I think you'll take your chances. I don't think that he's that developed of a passer right now. So, to me, I make KJ Jefferson a passing threat this week. I just say, if I'm out Mike Elko, who knows a lot more football than I do, we're going to play incredible. We're going to probably put 8 in the box for the most part. And if you beat us, then guess what? You're just a better guy. I think that's where it kind of starts with. And I think, Sam Pittman told us this on our show, is the fact that they try to develop the run with KJ Jefferson early, like the quarterback design run, just to build up his confidence level for when they do call passing down. So if you're able to take that early and often away from him, David, I think that's the recipe for success. I think this is a defense wins game as opposed to offense.
Conversely, do you see Arkansas trying to do that same thing against A&M's front, putting 8 in the box and making it very difficult for them to run and force Zach Calzada to beat you?
Yeah, how do you not, right? And again, it's the flip side. If Zach's able to do it, which here's the thing. I think that, skill position wise, between Muhammad and Demon, you had guys step up, right? Like you had other guys who, that are skill position players that Jimbo's finally starting to trust, and Zach Calzada starting to get that little, relationship with. But yeah, that's why I think everybody thinks it's going to be a fist fight, because they're like, it's going to be old school, like 4 yards in a cloud of dust or a cloud of turf up there in Jerryworld about who can win the line of scrimmage. And right now, it's hard to think that this is going to be almost, I was going to say Arkansas has the better offensive line. I don't think there's a doubt, but then you go up against, Liucci and this defensive line. It feels like an overall push. Liucci, where do you feel that Arkansas at any point has a distinct advantage over A&M?
All right, guys, do me the favor. You're watching this video, so do me something. Just do this solid for me. Go on there, like it, subscribe, comment, tell your friends about it. If you like other schools, watch this video anyway. It helps our numbers up. Thank you so much for watching TexAgs Rewind.